And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today, we're talking about undrafted free agents that the Washington Commanders signed after the NFL draft. We're going to be talking about these players and if they can become real impact players this season. And so before we go ahead and jump into it, I first want to remind you to hit that subscribe button. Just like Jaden Daniels is going to be hitting Terry McLaurin for lots of touchdowns this upcoming season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. So make sure that you hit that subscribe, you hit that like button, and you join the Washington Commanders Insider family. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the content for today. And so if you want to read about these players a little bit more, head over to Commanders Wire. I think that this is a terrific article talking about these players. And so let's go ahead and look at player number one out of Jackson State, and that is Robert McDaniel. So according to this article on Commanders Wire, it looks like that the Washington Commanders have definitely been interested in McDaniel. It looks like that they went to the HBCU NFL Combine, and so they got a chance to look at him test there. They also hosted him on a dinner before the NFL draft as well. So, there's definitely some interest if they've gone and they've looked at you at the Combine and then, they've invited you to the dinner. And so good start. The next, just his versatility. And so just other things that I've read about him and just looking at some of his highlights, he's a player that he is very versatile. He can play either the corner or the safety position. And he is a player that I think is very physical. From what I'm seeing and reading about him, he is a player that is going to come up and give you some great run support. In this 2024 season, he had 55 tackles. He had 10 for losses. He had 3 INTs. He had 5 pass breakups. He had 2 forced fumbles, and he is 6'2", 207. And so he's got some great size with him as well. And immediately I start to think of a player like that used to be in the Legion of Boom. And so dating back to the Seattle and their defense when they were very good, winning Super Bowls and things like that. But he reminds me a little bit of an Earl Thomas type of player. And so that is somebody that certainly fits what Dan Quinn would be looking for. Remember, Dan Quinn was with the Seattle Seahawks at one point. And so I can definitely see where there is some similarity here. And so do I think that he possibly could make it out onto the field, week one? Yeah, I think there is a real possibility that he could be out there at some point, if not week one. Definitely, let's see if he can, get a roster spot, because the undrafted free agency, it doesn't guarantee you that you're going to get a roster spot, but he certainly seems like he has the tools to definitely be an impact in the secondary for the Washington Commanders. And it's a unit that I think has definitely gotten a lot physical, especially when you look at what they were able to do in the draft. And so next up, the next player that they were talking about in this article is an offensive lineman. And he went to North Carolina State, and that is Tim McKay. And so from what I'm seeing on Tim McKay, it looks like that he definitely can be a lineman that can be an anchor for you. It looks like that at times he is very good with his hand placement. So that's one of the things that I saw there on one of his NFL draft profiles. And so you like to see that. And it just seems like it's a player that's been, I think for the most part, he's been pretty durable, played a lot of snaps. It says that in the Commanders Wire article, 2,784 career snaps at North Carolina State. So that's good to see. And then just talking about the fact that in his 2 years at right guard, he only allowed 2 total sacks and 5 hits on his quarterback. So that is terrific production. And then saying that one of the keys that I saw in the first line was that he was a projected mid-round draft selection before he tore his pectoral muscle at his pro day. And so perhaps would have been drafted. So maybe it could be a steal for the Washington Commanders there. Some of the weaknesses that they talk about with him, he's going to need to have to really improve his footwork. And then also, too, the question is, can he deal with the speed rushers at the next level? This was on NFL Draft Network, but still, it could be a really good find. the offensive line is something that definitely is going to be of importance. And if you get a player that was projected to be drafted and just fell out of the draft because of an injury, that is, I think, a plus for the Washington Commanders. And he certainly could see some time, especially with what happened at the offensive line last year, or in the offensive line last year, where we lost some players there late. So yes, Tim McKay definitely could be an impact player at some point if he's able to make the roster. And so next up, the next player that there is listed as an undrafted signing for the Washington Commanders, and that's going to be Carlin Viggers here. So he's a cornerback out of Louisiana, Monroe. And so with this guy, I mean, he looks like he's a lot bigger than what he's listed, because he looks like just a tall corner out there. I definitely see a player that certainly has some range and versatility. Was doing a little research here. It looks like that he also played cornerback and safety as well. And so that kind of goes into what we were just talking about with McDaniel. So this seems like something that the Commanders are looking to get. They're looking to get players that can be, maybe line up in different, situations. You can probably throw them into some different packages. And then from his highlights, from what I'm seeing, I see a player that absolutely will come up and he will certainly get downhill in run support. Not saying he's the most physical person out there. Like, he's definitely, I saw where he missed some tackles and things like that, but still I did see him come downhill, and he's going to definitely try to, get the runner down or whatnot. 6'2", 200 pounds. But what I like about him is that he's a special teams ace. This is a guy that in the highlights I saw, he was looking to block a field goal. He came down on the kick return coverage. He was lined up outside as the going down on the punt as well. So this is a guy that can cover punts for you. So immediately I think of a player that certainly can get on the field for you when you're talking about being a special teams ace. I think that that's probably going to be key, number one. And number two, one of the things that it talks about in this Commanders Wire article is that he held a Texas elite receiver to just 19, yards out there. And that was huge as well when you look at the potential of him being a very good corner. In fact, it was Matthew Golden only allowed 19 yards according to the PFF there. This is in Commanders Wire if you want to go take a look at that. And so he shows that he can definitely be a guy that can stick around in coverage, maybe cover some of these deep routes. He's definitely a player that can stay attached over the middle of the field. Again, 6'1". He looks a lot bigger when you look at his highlights and things like that. And so next up, the next player here that the Washington Commanders went out and signed was Ricky Barber out of UCF. And so, look, man, he looks like he could be really a good steal for the Washington Commanders, especially when we're talking about stopping the run. 6'3", 295. And so he played in Western Kentucky University first before he went over to UCF. And here's some of the numbers. Again, just heading over to this Commanders Wire article. So 34 hits, 73 hurries, 123 pressures in his career. And I think that when just looking at his highlights and what I saw there is I see a guy that can definitely eat up space in the middle of the field. I think that if you were to put him out there and then let's say that he translates in the NFL, I would think that he would be a player that is going to be able to keep a Bobby Wagner, a Frankie Louvu clean so they can make plays. I think that that is point number one as far as eating up space. I think he does a great job there. I think that his initial rush, it's pretty powerful. It looks like that he has that in his game. So a nice little bull rush. And I also like the fact that too, his first step definitely looks good. Like he has a first quick step. So I think that that could be something that's very disruptive. Just talked about the hurries and the sacks that he gets. And he's also good against the run. I think that he rarely kind of missed a tackle or whatnot. Like it looked pretty good when he's getting the runner down. And so, another guy that maybe he gets on the team. Perhaps maybe he is, a gem that you have signed outside of the NFL draft. And look, I know that we put a lot of emphasis on the NFL draft and the prospects that get drafted there, but there are definitely players that they go undrafted. they get to the right situation and they become some good players. And so anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking here. What did you think about, this defensive tackle here, Ricky Barber, excuse me. And then what do you think here about, the cornerback that we were just talking about in Carlin Viggers? Do you think that he's a guy that makes the team? Lastly here, a guy that I definitely like, Robert McDaniel, defensive back / safety out of Jackson State. So all those players undrafted free agents that the Washington Commanders have signed. So let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. And as we always say, go Commanders, and I will see you on the next one. All right, peace.